Hey, what's up, you guys? So Bandai, yeah. So we all know eventually, there's gonna come a time when they will finally pump out something for the new Godzilla and Kong film. We know that Playmate's been killing it for the most part with a lot of their new recent figures, and for what they are, they're surprisingly decent. So of course, obviously, we were gonna eventually get the good stuff too. You know what I mean? I know there's the whole Jada toys or Jada toys thing where they got like that sort of weird uniqueness to them, especially that one Godzilla where he could literally breathe smoke. That's interesting. All right. So of course with Bandai, obviously, it was inevitable that they would at least pump out something because why wouldn't they? That'd be pretty weird. Even when Godzilla vs Kong came out, their figures came out a little late, but it's not a big deal. Obviously, the only figure they ever made was Kong and Mechagodzilla, but whatever. It's better late than never, so it's not really that much of a big deal. But then, of course, there's also their Tamashii Nations, Sh.Monster Arts department. Now, before I talk about the issue that kind of happened today, I think it happened today. I don't know. It was brought to my attention this morning, so I might as well talk about it because it's kind of interesting. But before I get to that, I need to add a little bit of context. So, of course, the Sh.Monster Arts line was created by Bandai. They're exactly what you think they are. They're like these highly expensive but extremely detailed collectible action figures. They're basically the definition of you can only put them on your shelf and then nothing else. You can't play with them, you can't do nothing else with them, and that's not entirely a bad thing, okay? There's always going to be collectors that are into that type of stuff, in different styles and all that. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to the Monster Arts line, my knowledge of them is not that great because I don't even own a figure, so technically I shouldn't even be covering this topic. There's a reason why I am. I'll get to that. Don't worry. But yeah, obviously this specific toy line hasn't really had the best reputation, and the biggest one that they suffered the most with is either it's one of two things. It's either pretty bad quality control, especially with Shin Godzilla, or the constant repaints that they've done. Now, as someone who can give less of a crap when it comes to repaints, I'll be honest, they really do a lot of repaints, and the ones we're going to be talking about today is of no exception. Because why the hell would they why would they cast these new figures off as new when they're clearly repaints? So something kind of weird going on. But today I don't feel like going into detective mode. I'm just gonna say it how it is for the first time. I'm just gonna be blunt. I think this is really dumb. Even I agree because I see Godzilla fans tearing this shit apart. It's like, oh my god, like they are like taking a huge dump on these figures, man. And I'm like, damn, I hate that they look nice, but I can definitely see what the issue is because of the repaint aspect. Don't get me wrong, this toy line suffers a lot from it. Like, they've done like so many, I know, and I get it. They try to be unique, I understand, you know. Like, I don't remember if it was their space, if it was the 1994 Godzilla or the 1995 Burning Godzilla. I'm not too sure, but I know that they did like a repaint of one of those figures, and they try to cast it off as like Godzilla Junior, like after like the whole Destroyer thing. I don't know if you guys know what I mean. But they call him 1995 Godzilla. It's complicated, And then of course there's the other one with King Ghidorah from 1991, where they did like the colored poster version, which wasn't so bad, he's super golden, but you get the point. And then of course, honestly, the list can go on. They've made like constant, and I mean constant repaints, and it's like to cover all of them in one video, it'd be pretty hard. And like I said, these new ones that we're going to be talking about today is pretty much of no exception because pretty much these newer figures are supposed to be kind of based off of the new film that's coming out in April, or should I say March, because apparently it's actually releasing a lot more earlier, so that's great. But here's the problem though: these figures that are supposed to be based off the new film, they're not new. They're clearly repaints of the previous, like, Godzilla versus Kong figures, and it's like, if you look at them, there's really nothing different about them, so you might as well just flat out say it, that it's a reissue or a re-release, because even I'm really confused as to how we got here, where it's like, aren't these supposed to be, like, the big bads, like, with Bandai with their like highly detailed figures and all of that. Like the posability. Kong looks great. Godzilla, he's fine. I'm gonna be honest. This Godzilla figure, I don't know why it's not not doing it for me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the way he's standing up though. I don't know what's going on. But obviously, this kind of, maybe in my opinion, they kind of come off as like bad repaints in a way, only because there's really nothing to really offer with it. They're just simply releasing the same figure but painted differently, and even then, the paint isn't even different enough to really warrant getting the figure. And on top of that, they're casting it off as being part of the new film Godzilla X Kong and New Empire. And of course, as we all know, I mean, we know the synopsis of the film, so it's like, I don't know, do we really need to do an in-depth video on this? I hope the video doesn't last 10 minutes for sure, because that'd be pretty ridiculous. I mean, especially when you look at Kong, too. Now, as someone who draws, like recently, I've been drawing like crazy. I mean, I got colored pencils all over the place, pretty much. And it's like, I get what they're trying to do, but it's like it really doesn't work. Especially with Kong. Kong bothers me the most because I get like this weird kind of like color wheel thing going on where it's like when they go through like the scale of the colors. So yeah, he's slightly brown from the previous film, but obviously as we've seen how he looks in the new film, his beard has grown a little longer. He's now like a blackish, grayish color. Even the Playmates figures, it's bad when they do a better interpretation than a company like Bandai, who's supposed to be 1,000 times better, by the way. But it's like, yikes! I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you guys think? And it's like I look at the figure, the new version, and it's like it really doesn't look that different from the last one. It only feels like that they just kind of tinted the color a little bit. It's like, oh, okay. Like, how's the meeting? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we need to give them a slightly different paint. What color should we paint them? Just slightly darker. Okay, how much darker? Just slightly. Like, no, show us how slightly. Yeah, no, that's fine. That has to be the conversation because it is so ridiculous. This is not a good repaint. I'm sorry. Even I see it. And mind you, I'm a sucker for repaints. Repaints for me, they need to have some sort of purpose behind it. I mean, who could forget like Disco Skeletor? You know what I mean? That went from being a controversial action figure to being like very iconic. So iconic, Pixel Dan, he even he dedicated like a page or two in his book, regarding Masters of the Universe and all that. You get the idea. I mean, it's still. And I mean, repaint, and don't get me wrong, G.I. Joe is another example too, where if they're army builders, especially their Python troopers and all that, that's fine if they make a bunch of repaints of those. Only because that's always been sort of a key part, especially when it came to the original toys, because, okay, fine, this toy line was made just to sell toys, for the most part. Fine, whatever. A lot of these companies, they gotta do what they gotta do. But for the most part, there's like this weird sort of like specialty behind it where it's like, okay, I get that these are army soldiers, but they kind of color themselves up a little bit to kind of differentiate from each other, which I think is cool. And even in the cartoons, they do that, especially with the Crimson Guards and all that. That's great. You gotta look at it like that sometimes. And I could go on, but obviously I don't want to dwell on this too much. I think I pretty much got the point out of the way where like these figures are not cutting it. So that Bandai, you could do better next time, please. And the main reason, the number one reason why I wanted to talk about this, it's because Playmates toys with their Monsterverse figures, they're really not that innocent either, because they also suffer doing the whole reuse thing and same sculpt and all that. So okay, fine, this is not the only company to do that, so why am I bashing them so hard than with Playmates? But the difference with Playmates is that even when they release the exact same figures just painted slightly differently, at least they add like a new accessory, or at least the paint is like different enough to actually warrant it. So especially with the previous 2-pack with the Hollow Earth Kong and Godzilla, like the blue color behind Godzilla, it looks interesting. It looks cool. Like it's like nice and bright, and it's supposed to represent when he shoots his heat ray. That's fantastic. And I regret not getting it, by the way. I now when I have the money and I want to buy it, it's not at my local Target anymore, so that's great. And then of course, obviously, there's the Hong Kong battle figures, which are a bit of a mix. Depending on like there's some versions where like the paint job is nice and bright, but then there's others where it's like non-existent. So you get the point. They actually put meaning in their figures when it comes to their paint variants, and even then, that's not saying much because these new figures that we're getting, they use new sculpts anyway. With the exception of Heat Ray Godzilla, but even then, even that figure seems to be kind of unique for the most part, and it does come with a different, brand new Heat Ray piece. So, point I'm trying to make is, I don't know, Bandai. I mean, I'll always support you no matter what, but that's just kind of weird that you have a company like Playmates who's done a lot of pretty dumb stuff in the past, but it seems like that they're kind of they're in the head of the lead for sure. And I still haven't even found any figures yet. I mean, originally the plan was tomorrow, Friday. But by the time you're watching this video, it's probably going to be on Friday anyway because of YouTube's stupid, like, weird, upload thing. You get the point. Pretty much, so tomorrow the plan was that I was going to go on and do a toy hunt. I don't know if that's going to happen due to certain circumstances and all of that. Though nothing bad, but nothing I won't really get into. But I already have a video plan anyway. Some gaming. Some playthroughs. Obviously, I already recorded a whole bunch for Sonic 2. That's the game that you guys voted to. You want to watch me play. So that's what I'm gonna do. So that's the plan. So either way, there's gonna be a new video tomorrow, no matter what. So until then, hope you guys, stay safe out there as always. Leave a like and subscribe. And just take it easy for the most part. And that's about it.